Everyone turned away from her, a frail old woman begging for help on a stormy night. But when one kind-hearted girl reached out her hand, she had no idea her small act of compassion would change her destiny forever, leading her to a love written by fate and a truth that would shake her soul. Heartbreak Sparkles. Subscribe now to this channel for more heart-touching miracle love stories that will make you believe in destiny. Heart on Fire. The city lights blurred beneath the rain as strangers hurried past the fragile old lady sitting beside the hospital gate, her wrinkled hands trembling as she clutched a worn photograph close to her heart, her eyes filled with desperation and fading hope. No one stopped. Not the nurses, not the businessmen, not even the guards who pretended not to notice her soft cries for help. Everyone ignored her, everyone except a young woman named Alina, a struggling nurse trainee who had just finished her shift. Despite her exhaustion and the heavy rain soaking her uniform, Alina's heart clenched at the sight of the shivering woman. Something in the old lady's eyes, loneliness mixed with a quiet dignity, pierced through her. Without thinking, Alina ran to her, covered her frail body with her own scarf, and gently asked, "Grandma, are you all right?" The woman looked up, her voice weak as she whispered, "No one sees me anymore, child, they all left me to die." Alina's heart twisted. She took her to the emergency ward, paid for her treatment with the last of her savings, and stayed through the night, holding her hand as the old lady drifted in and out of consciousness. The next morning, Alina learned that the woman's name was Eleanor Wrightson, the estranged matriarch of one of the wealthiest families in the city, founders of the Wrightson Group. Rumors said she had been thrown out by her own family after a mysterious scandal years ago. But Alina didn't care about names or money. She cared about the trembling woman who smiled at her for the first time that morning and whispered, "You remind me of someone I once loved dearly." Days turned into weeks. Alina visited Eleanor every day after work, bathing her, reading to her, cooking small homemade meals, even though she barely made ends meet herself. The hospital staff mocked her. Why waste time on a dying stranger? But Alina never wavered. One day, Eleanor secretly signed something and smiled mysteriously at Alina. "My dear, kindness is a seed. You never know what garden it will grow." Alina didn't understand the meaning then. Soon after, Eleanor passed away peacefully in her sleep, holding Alina's hand. Alina wept uncontrollably, feeling as if she'd lost a part of her own family. The hospital called the Wrightson family to collect the body, but none came, except a man in a black suit and piercing cold eyes, Alexander Wrightson, the CEO of Wrightson Group. He was tall, stoic, and carried an aura that made everyone step aside. When Alina tried to approach him to tell him about his grandmother's final words, he cut her off harshly, mistaking her for another opportunist. "Enough," he said coldly. "I know people like you, after the family's money." Alina was stunned and humiliated, her voice breaking as she said, "I didn't help her for money. I helped her because no one else did." But Alexander turned and left, leaving her with her tears and the memory of the woman she had loved like a grandmother. Months passed. Alina lost her small rented room when her landlord sold the building. Homeless and jobless, she wandered the rainy streets again, when suddenly a luxury car stopped beside her. The door opened, revealing Alexander himself. He looked at her silently, guilt flickering in his eyes. "Get in," he said softly. She refused at first, but his voice trembled slightly. "Please, it's about Grandma." Against her better judgment, she got in. He drove her to a grand mansion, Eleanor's estate, and led her to a study where a lawyer sat with a file. To her shock, Eleanor had left everything, her fortune, her shares, even the mansion, to Alina. The lawyer explained that in her will, Eleanor wrote, "The one who showed me love when the world turned its back deserves to inherit more than wealth. She deserves my family's heart." Alina froze in disbelief, tears streaming down her face as Alexander's expression hardened. "You inherited everything," he said, half in disbelief, half in admiration. But instead of greed, Alina dropped to her knees, sobbing. "I don't want anything. I just wanted her back." That moment shattered Alexander's arrogance. For the first time in years, he saw truth, pure, selfless kindness, in someone's eyes. Days turned into strange companionship as Alexander offered to help her manage the inheritance. Alina tried to refuse, but Eleanor's final wish in the will was clear: help her find a home within this family. Slowly, Alexander and Alina began spending time together, sharing memories of Eleanor, uncovering old letters, and finding hidden truths buried under years of family betrayal. Alexander revealed that his father had framed Eleanor for fraud to seize control of the company, driving her out to die alone. Alina's heart broke for him, and in her warmth, Alexander began to heal. She taught him to laugh again, to eat humble meals instead of boardroom dinners, to feel rather than calculate. One night, while searching Eleanor's attic, they found an old box with a torn letter inside addressed to "My grandson, Alex, for when you learn what love means." Inside, Eleanor had written, "Love cannot be inherited or bought. It must be earned through kindness. When you meet the girl who loved me without knowing who I was, you'll understand." Alexander looked at Alina, realization dawning on him like a sunrise through darkness. He fell to his knees, whispering, "It was you. You were her last wish." But before Alina could speak, a hidden truth emerged, an envelope addressed to her. Inside was her own birth certificate. Shockingly, Eleanor had discovered that Alina was the daughter of her long-lost caretaker, a woman who had once saved Eleanor's life decades ago before dying in poverty. Fate had brought Alina back into the Wrightson family's world not as a stranger, but as destiny's chosen link. Overwhelmed, Alina tried to run away, not wanting to be part of the family that had caused Eleanor pain. But Alexander chased her through the rain, catching her by the hand. "Grandma wanted us to heal this family together. Don't walk away, Alina, not from me." His voice broke, filled with emotion. "I was blind when you were the only one who saw her worth, and mine." Tears streamed down her face as thunder rolled above them, their hearts pounding with unspoken emotions. As weeks turned into months, they rebuilt the Wrightson empire not with greed, but compassion, turning Eleanor's mansion into a charity hospital for the forgotten elderly. Alina became its director, and Alexander visited daily, not as a CEO, but as a man in love. The walls once filled with silence now echoed with laughter and healing. One day, in the very garden where Eleanor once sat, Alexander knelt before Alina with a ring that had belonged to his grandmother, whispering, "You gave life to her last days. Let me give you forever." Overwhelmed, Alina nodded through tears. Their wedding was simple yet filled with emotion, attended by the hospital patients and staff who once mocked her. As they exchanged vows, a soft breeze carried a single white rose from the altar, Eleanor's favorite, landing in Alina's hands. She smiled through tears, whispering, "She's here." Years later, Alina would often sit in that same garden, now filled with blooming roses, telling young nurses the story of the old lady everyone ignored, how one act of kindness can turn despair into destiny. The final twist came when Alexander unveiled a portrait in the hospital hall, a painting of Eleanor holding Alina's hand, titled, "Love Beyond Blood." And beneath it, engraved in gold, "The heart that chooses kindness will always find its home." As Alina looked at the painting, a soft voice seemed to whisper through the wind, "You found the family I always wished for, my child." Tears glistened in her eyes as Alexander wrapped his arms around her, whispering, "And I found love in the kindness that everyone else ignored." And so, the story that began with one forgotten woman and one kind-hearted girl became a legacy of love, redemption, and miracles, a reminder that sometimes, the people we save end up saving us back, in ways we could never imagine. Heartbreak sparkles.